Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about something that affects all of us, every single day, our own biased brains. We're going to trace a line from these quiet, automatic shortcuts happening inside your head all the way to their huge, messy impact on social media and even the justice system. It's a journey into how our minds are built to help us and how that exact same design can sometimes go spectacularly wrong on a global scale. But let's start with a simple, pretty personal question. I want you to imagine your biggest regret, your most embarrassing moment, or maybe the most serious error in judgment you've ever made. Okay, got it? Now, what if that one moment was the first thing, the only thing, everyone knew about you, forever? Just keep that thought in your back pocket as we go.
To understand how we judge other people, we first have to get a handle on the hardware we're all working with, our own brains. And it turns out they're built for speed, not always for accuracy.
And the core idea here is something called cognitive bias. Now, this isn't just a random mistake we make. Nope, it's a predictable, systematic pattern in how we think. Our brain basically takes this fire hose of information from the world and builds our own subjective reality, our own unique, edited version of what's happening.
So, why do we even have these biases? Well, our brains are kind of lazy, but in a really efficient way. They use these mental shortcuts, the technical term is heuristics, to make thousands of decisions a day without getting totally bogged down. Think of it like this. If you're walking and see a snake-like shape on the trail, you jump back first and ask questions later, right? That's a heuristic at work. It's way faster than doing a detailed analysis, and that speed can be a lifesaver. But in our modern world, these same shortcuts can lead us into making some very predictable mistakes.
And this isn't some new idea, by the way. The groundwork for all of this was laid way back in the 70s by two psychologists, Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. They showed how people rely on these shortcuts, especially when we're dealing with uncertainty. And what started in psychology has now just exploded. Researchers are finding the fingerprints of these biases in pretty much every field you can imagine.
So that's what's happening inside one brain. But what happens when you connect billions of these biased brains together on the internet? Well, the shortcuts and the errors don't just add up, they multiply like crazy.
And that brings us to a very modern and, let's be honest, very contentious phenomenon. The Macquarie Dictionary defines cancel culture as this mass withdrawal of support from public figures. It is public judgment happening at a scale and speed that is just unprecedented.
But what's really interesting is how this actually plays out. Just look at these two examples. With Louis C.K., who admitted to sexual misconduct, which led to canceled projects, and it was widely seen as accountability. But then you have Ilya Shapiro, whose controversial tweet led to him being placed on leave, which then turned into a huge debate about free speech. It just goes to show you that what we call cancel culture isn't one simple thing. It's a complex label that gets applied to all sorts of different situations.
And this is where our cognitive biases come roaring back into the picture. A huge study in the journal Science found that online lies literally travel faster than the truth. So why is that? Well, it's because falsehoods often tap directly into our biases, especially confirmation bias. You know, our tendency to latch onto information that confirms what we already believe. Outrageous or shocking stories are basically tailor-made to go viral in an ecosystem of biased brains.
Okay, let's switch gears. Let's move from the court of public opinion to an actual court system. What happens when these same human shortcuts in societal biases get baked right into the institutions that decide people's fates?
I mean, think about the challenge of getting a job after making a big mistake. We all know a criminal record is a barrier, but just how big of a barrier is it? A field experiment from some researchers found a precise and pretty startling number.
The number they found is, well, it's stark. 60%. After sending out thousands of fake job applications, they found that employers were 60% more likely to call back an applicant who did not have a record. Just think about that for a second. For identical qualifications, the door is shut more than half the time, right from the get-go.
But bias isn't always that direct. There was this fascinating study that looked at recidivism. That's the likelihood of someone reoffending. It used data from an algorithm that courts actually use to predict future criminal behavior. The study focused only on people the algorithm rated as low risk. And at first, the outcomes looked totally equal. But then, a racial gap appeared after a very specific amount of time. 7 months. For the first 7 months, the algorithm's low-risk prediction held true for everybody. But after that 7-month mark, a gap opened up. African-American individuals started reoffending at a higher rate than white individuals who had gotten the exact same low-risk score.
So what on earth is going on here? This is the crucial point. It suggests the problem isn't just a biased algorithm. For 7 months, the prediction holds. But over the long term, other things, what the researchers call contextual factors, like disparities in housing, job opportunities, and community support, they start to take their toll. These systemic disadvantages pile up over time and create a disparity that the initial risk score just couldn't predict.
So we have biases in our heads, we have biases in our social networks, and we have biases baked into our institutions. This raises a huge question. How do we move forward? How can we rethink our approach to justice, and maybe even to forgiveness?
Well, one way is to look at 2 different models of justice. The one we're probably most familiar with is retributive justice. It's all about punishment, adversarial relationships, think of a classic courtroom battle. But there's another model, restorative justice, which completely shifts the focus. It asks what harm was done and how can we repair it. It's all about dialogue, negotiation, and getting the community actively involved.
And this framework, which was analyzed by the academic Kathleen Daly, isn't really about choosing one over the other. She argues that seeing them as total opposites is actually the mistake. A truly functional system probably needs elements of both. You need accountability, and you need restoration. The challenge, of course, is that our digital world has a perfect memory. The internet doesn't forget, and in response to this permanent digital footprint, a really groundbreaking legal idea has popped up, especially in Europe.
It's called the right to be forgotten, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. It gives individuals the power, under certain conditions, to have links to their personal information removed from search results. It's a direct legal answer to that question we started with, a way to make sure one past mistake doesn't define you online forever.
And this brings us right back to our final question. From the little shortcuts in our brain to the global reach of the internet, we live in a world that documents everything and forgets almost nothing. So the challenge for all of us is to figure out, how do we build systems and a society that can hold people accountable for their mistakes without denying them the capacity to change? How do we balance the scales of justice and forgiveness? Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it and learned something from it, and you want to share your own opinion or maybe an experience you've had, you can comment down below. I would love to see your thoughts and experiences. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on that notification bell to get notified when I upload more videos like this. Have a good day. Bye.